Behind the dust, the gunfire, and the swagger of the Magnificent Seven lies a story wilder than anything on screen. What looked like a smooth, heroic Western was, in reality, a battleground of egos, accidents, and unbelievable luck. From Steve McQueen faking a car crash to escape his TV contract, to Yul Brynner's secret wedding on set, to scripts being written the night before filming, chaos ruled every corner of production. Props were stolen, actors feuded, and even the director made choices so strange they've become Hollywood legend. So saddle up, because today we're diving into the Magnificent Seven, 20 weird facts you never knew. Fact 1. Yul Brynner got married on set. During filming in 1960, Yul Brynner married Chilean model Doris Kleiner right on the Magnificent Seven set in Cuernavaca, Mexico. The crew reused the movie's fiesta decorations, banners, flowers, and props to create a real Mexican-style wedding. Co-stars like Steve McQueen and Charles Bronson attended, blurring the line between film and life. Brynner and Doris stayed married until 1967, and their daughter's godmother was Audrey Hepburn. It was a love story as cinematic as the movie itself. Fact 2. Steve McQueen crashed his way into Hollywood. To escape his TV contract and join the Magnificent Seven, Steve McQueen staged a car crash. In 1959, while starring in Wanted, Dead or Alive, he deliberately drove his rental Cadillac into a Boston bank, then wore a fake neck brace to claim whiplash. The stunt convinced his studio he needed time off, which he used to film in Mexico with Yul Brynner. His wife later confirmed the story, saying he literally crashed his way into movie history. The gamble paid off. The film made him a star. Fact 3. Killed in casting order. Director John Sturges made a bold choice. He killed off the Magnificent Seven in the exact order the actors were cast. The script never specified who would die first, so Sturges let the casting timeline decide. It was part practicality, part poetry, a way to manage the chaos of a big ensemble while adding an eerie, real-world symmetry. In the end, fate in the story mirrored fate on set. The call sheet became the kill list. Fact 4. Written the night before filming. Much of the Magnificent Seven was written on the fly, with actors getting new lines just hours before filming. After multiple rewrites and dropped writers, director John Sturges brought in William Roberts, who often stayed up all night typing fresh pages for the next day's scenes. The chaos gave the film its rough, spontaneous energy, and when credit disputes erupted, Roberts ended up as the only credited writer on a script rewritten almost daily. Fact 5. McQueen versus Brynner, the height feud. Yul Brynner secretly stood on little dirt mounds during scenes to look taller than Steve McQueen until McQueen started kicking them away between takes. What began as a petty prank turned into an ongoing duel of egos. Brynner wanted to look commanding. McQueen wanted to steal every shot. The crew watched in amusement as the two stars waged a silent battle over a few inches, and movie legend was born. Fact 6. Eli Wallach rode Marlon Brando's saddle. Eli Wallach's ornate silver saddle in the Magnificent Seven wasn't just a prop. It had belonged to Marlon Brando, used in his film One-Eyed Jacks. Studios reused costly gear back then, and Brando's handcrafted saddle was too beautiful to sit in storage. Wallach loved it, saying it fit Calvera's flashy, self-made bandit style. Ironically, the same saddle linked two very different westerns, Brando's brooding One-Eyed Jacks and the bold heroism of the Magnificent Seven. Fact 7. Real bandits adopted Eli Wallach. The Mexican cowboys hired to play Calvera's gang grew so fond of Eli Wallach that they treated him like family, checking his horse gear, inspecting his guns, and even protecting him off set. Wallach, a New York stage actor, had worried he wouldn't fit in with the real-life horsemen. Instead, they took him under their wing, teaching him to ride like a true bandit. By the end of filming, the men didn't just see him as their leader on screen. They saw him as one of their own. Fact 8. Brynner's hat-counting obsession. Yul Brynner became so paranoid about Steve McQueen stealing scenes that he hired an assistant just to count how many times McQueen touched his hat during Brynner's lines. McQueen's constant hat-fiddling drove Brenner crazy. He saw it as a sneaky trick to steal attention. The assistant stood off camera, tallying every move like it was evidence in a trial. By day's end, Brenner would study the numbers, convinced he'd caught McQueen red-handed. It was one of Hollywood's pettiest and funniest rivalries ever. Fact 9. The magnificent flop that conquered the world. When The Magnificent Seven premiered in 1960, it barely broke even, earning just $2.25 million in the U.S. against a $2 million budget. Critics dismissed it as a watered-down remake of Seven Samurai, and audiences were indifferent. But overseas, it was a completely different story. Europe loved it, and in the Soviet Union, it sold a staggering 67 million tickets, the most for any Hollywood film there. What began as an American flop became a global hit, proving that legends sometimes need the world to recognize them first. Fact 10. Steve McQueen's final call to Yul Brynner. In 1980, as he lay dying of cancer, Steve McQueen made a surprise call to Yul Brynner to say thank you. He told him, "You could have had me kicked off The Magnificent Seven, but you let me stay. That picture made me, so thanks." Brynner, moved, replied, "I am the king and you are the rebel prince." After years of rivalry, the two finally found peace. For McQueen, that call wasn't just an apology. It was a tribute to the film that made them both legends. Fact 11. Akira Kurosawa's gift of respect. After watching The Magnificent Seven, Akira Kurosawa sent director John Sturges a ceremonial Japanese sword, even though he'd once called the remake a disappointment compared to his Seven Samurai. The gesture carried deep meaning. In Japanese tradition, gifting a sword signifies honor and respect between warriors. Despite his criticisms, Kurosawa clearly admired Sturges's craftsmanship in adapting his story for the American West. The sword became a symbol of mutual respect, linking samurai and gunslingers, and uniting two masters who understood that courage and brotherhood speak every language. Fact 12. The theme that sold cigarettes. Elmer Bernstein's unforgettable score for The Magnificent Seven found new life in 1963 as the theme for Marlboro's iconic cowboy ads. The Leo Burnett Agency used it to rebrand Marlboro from a women's cigarette into a rugged symbol of freedom and masculinity. The bold, heroic melody fit perfectly with images of lone cowboys riding across open plains. The campaign was a massive success, turning Marlboro into the world's top-selling cigarette and making Bernstein's music more famous on TV commercials than in movie theaters. Fact 13. James Coburn's samurai obsession. James Coburn was so devoted to Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai that he watched it 15 times before The Magnificent Seven was even made. He studied every detail, performances, camera work, rhythm, long before most Americans had even heard of the film. So when Hollywood decided to remake it as a Western, Coburn was desperate to join. With help from his friend Robert Vaughn, he landed the role of Britt, the silent, deadly knife thrower inspired by his favorite samurai. It was a perfect fit for an actor who had already learned the code of the samurai by heart. Fact 14. The cleanest villagers in movie history. Mexican censors demanded that the poor farmers in The Magnificent Seven wear spotless clothes. No dirt, no rags, no stains. Since the film was shot with government cooperation, officials wanted Mexico portrayed positively and felt grimy costumes would insult rural workers. The wardrobe team had to make the villagers look poor but freshly washed at all times, a strange contradiction for people living under bandit rule. Censors even forced script changes, removing scenes that made the farmers seem too helpless. Instead of begging for help, they first try to buy guns, a politically approved version of Mexican strength. Fact 15. Racing the clock to cast the Seven. The cast of The Magnificent Seven was thrown together in a frantic rush to beat a looming Screen Actors Guild strike. If the 7 roles weren't filled by noon on a Friday in early 1960, production would have been delayed for over a month. Director John Sturges and his team scrambled to sign contracts in time, with some deals sealed just hours before the cutoff. Robert Vaughn later said it felt like a real-life gunfight against the clock. The chaos paid off. They made the deadline, but many of the actors met for the first time only when cameras started rolling. Fact 16. A Western born from a samurai story. Few fans realize The Magnificent Seven is actually a remake of Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. The setting changed from feudal Japan to the American frontier, but the heart of the story stayed the same. 7 warriors banding together to defend a helpless village from ruthless bandits. It was East meeting West on film, and the result became one of cinema's most enduring legends. Fact 17. The villains had real-life roots. Eli Wallach's Calvera wasn't pure fiction. He was inspired by real Mexican bandit leaders from the 19th century. While not based on one man, the character reflected the chaos and brutality of post-Mexican-American war life when outlaws ruled and survival meant everything. Fact 18. Yul Brynner stole the spotlight. Yul Brynner's commanding presence as Chris Adams made him the film's magnetic center. Cool, confident, and impossible to ignore. But off-screen, that same intensity caused friction. Castmates said Brynner often dominated every scene, and sometimes every conversation, leaving little room for anyone else to shine. Fact 19. James Coburn wasn't the first pick. James Coburn landed the role of Britt only after Steve McQueen turned it down. McQueen was first offered the part but clashed with director John Sturges over screen time. In the end, Coburn made Britt unforgettable, and ironically, McQueen's new role as Vin Tanner became just as iconic. Fact 20. The Old West was actually Mexico. Though set in the American frontier, The Magnificent Seven was filmed in Mexico. The desert landscapes near Cuernavaca perfectly mimicked the Southwest and were far cheaper to shoot in. The crew built entire villages from scratch, giving the film its gritty, sun-baked authenticity and timeless Western look. And there you have it. The wild, unbelievable, and downright bizarre truths behind The Magnificent Seven. From fake car crashes to feuding stars and real bandits turned bodyguards, this Western classic was as chaotic behind the camera as it was legendary on screen. Which of these facts surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed uncovering the secrets of The Magnificent Seven, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more incredible stories from the golden age of Hollywood.